Hey gang, welcome to season 2 of Vityl Vinyl. That's right, in case you missed it, I stopped doing this for a while. About 4 months, I believe. Why, you may ask, or may not ask? Well, because I've been doing some comics work, because that's what I do. In addition to the millions of dollars that I make doing this. And by this I mean this show, not that, which I don't make any off of doing that either. But yes, I've been doing some comic book work. I'm drawing a 150-page graphic novel called Tad Caldwell and the blah 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 blah. Tad Caldwell and the Monster Cult, which is a sequel to Tad Caldwell and the Monster Kid, which I didn't draw. And also had a miniseries get picked up by Scout Publishing that I'll be drawing along with Mark Bertolini, who I worked with together on Bigfoot Frankenstein. And here's what the cover of that looks like on my handy dandy Tabletoni. And also, which will be out in about a month, oh yeah, it's a cover to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Halloween Special. Bana. So yeah, schedule's still kind of hectic, but I miss doing this, and I know none of you missed me, so I figured I'd come back and say hi. Well, I haven't really bought too much music, but I did get a couple of records and CDs nuts. But what I have kind of gotten more into is vintage audio stereo equipment. I got a bunch of it behind me. So, I'm gonna spend this episode kind of not knowing how to talk. You can see I've been working on my broadcasting skill during my hiatus. But today, I'm gonna do a quick rundown of all the things I got going on behind me, and then probably spend an episode on each one of them, showing all their fancy features and all little whatever stories that they might have associated with the items. Okay. So that's what this season 2 is. It really a season 2? I don't know, but yes, we'll just say it is. That's what season 2 is gonna be all about. So without further ado, we're gonna flip the cameras upside down or backwards forwards and give you a brief little tour of these stereo systems. I've got 2 and the little backup. One started out as my main one, and I was gonna have a secondary backup one, but the backup one I listen to just as much as I do the main one, so I guess we'll name them A and B, or 1 and 2, or this one and that one. Maybe this one and that one, so there's not a hierarchy oppressing one stereo over the other. Okay. Alright, well, let's jump right into it, shall we? Whoa, now we're on the other side of the camera, looking at this stereo. It's in an O'Sullivan cabinet, and it's connected to these 2 bottom speakers, Advent Laureates, that somebody was pretty much curbing, so I managed to pick them up. Now, I did a video about a year ago showing this stuff, and some of these items were on there then, but a lot of them were not. So if you've seen that one, then there'll still be some new stuff, and if you haven't seen it, then there'll be tons of new stuff. Okay, so I guess let's start off with those Advent Laureates. When I first got them, the speaker surrounds were rotted out, and I had to replace them, so I got a surround kit from simplyspeakers.com and replaced them. Took a couple of hours because I had no idea what I was doing, and it might look a little jacked up, but it's okay because you can't see them with the speaker grills on it, and I'm not really planning on selling these anytime soon, so hopefully it won't matter then. Okay, starting at the top, we've got the turntable. It's a dual 1019 turntable from the 60s. Has a removable dust cover, but it's not a hinged dust cover. Some of them were hinged, some were not. This one was not, so it just comes off just like that. It is a fully automatic turntable. It's got a 10-inch platter, so it's a little bit shorter than a record. It actually, I think it measures to almost 11 inches because it's not that much smaller than a record. It's got a Audio-Technica VM95E elliptical cartridge and stylus. And I will make a video going through all the functions on this. When I'm not listening to analog music like albums, I've got my old iPhone 5 plugged in to the aux jack, and I'll just stream things on it through Amazon Music. There's a little level to make sure that my turntable's level. There's a stacking spindle, because you can put a bunch of records on top of here and it'll just plop them down and you can play them and potentially mess up your records. Yay! And there's a little stylus guard behind it to put on the stylus to guard it. Alright, let's see. Moving down, I'm gonna pause this for a second and open up these glass doors so there's not a glare kicking back and you're not just like staring at my knees or my ding ding. Alright, so moving down from the turntable is the CD player. But CDs aren't vintage stereo. Yeah, I know, this one's from the early 2000s, but it does have the same brushed aluminum front, kind of more a gunmetal gray, but it still matches with like the brushed aluminum silver front of the rest of the equipment. This is a Sony. The model number is DVP5570D. Yep, it's actually a DVD player, but it sounds really good as a CD player. And it's got this neat little display, which only works on one of my CDs, a Star Trek The Motion Picture soundtrack, and it'll display what's playing. Whenever I put any other CDs in there, it just says no information. Alright, the brains or heart or whatever central operating unit of this stereo is a Pioneer SX780, 45 watts per channel of pure kick-ass watts per channel. It's from, I believe, 1977. They might not probably made them for a few years because they made a ton of these. You can find a lot of these around places. And one thing about all of this stereo equipment, a lot of it I got for free or next to nothing. This was not one of them, but it was in kind of rough shape, and so I got it for about half the price of what they're going for, because what they're going for is pretty expensive. That CD player you can get on eBay for around like 30 bucks I've seen. This turntable was given to me for free, but it did not have a stylus or a cartridge, needed a new motor and a new idler wheel, so it ended up being a couple of $100 total for everything to get it fixed. A lot of this stuff I do get, like, you know, for cheap or next to nothing or for free, because I like to try and work on this stuff and get it up to working condition. This turntable I did not do that with. I found a tech through a friend of a friend and have become friends with this guy, and it's been really cool because he does a lot of good work. And yep, and I know nothing about working on turntables. The only things I've really done have been like tape stuff, like either 8-track players or cassettes. And speaking of 8-track players and cassettes, well, before we speak of 8-track players and cassettes, when I did get this one, it was in kind of rough shape. The wood case is kind of banged up too, but sitting here in this cabinet, you can't really see it, but cleaned up the front, took all the knobs off, took it apart, cleaned out the inside because it was pretty dusty and grimy. Hit the knobs and the levers and switches with deoxit D5 and deoxit F5 for the faders, and got them all nice and unstaticky. It was missing a knob, so the person I got it for gave me a discount off of that and used the money to get a knob off of the aforementioned eBay. Okay, I think that's all I got to say about that. Moving right along down, the 8-track player. This is a Mayfair 8-track player. Picked it up for next to nothing at an estate sale, and they also threw in a couple of recordable 8-tracks, which I'll show later. It's sitting on another part of my stereo, and this is an actual recordable 8-track machine. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for, machine. I have not tested the recordability factor of this because I've only got like 2 blank 8-tracks, and I really want to make sure that what I put on them is good. So when I first got this, the sound was way off. The volume, if you moved it past a certain point, would just start going on one side, and it would bury the needle. Because see, it's got these cool little meters right there, and that's the volume sliders and the right and left volume meters. And then also the sound was off. Like if it was on track 1, it would play track 2. If it was on track 2, it would be on track 3. And if it was on track 3, you know what it would play? That's right, track 4, and so on and so forth. But I found out that that was just a crosstalk thing, so I just adjusted a screw. Like I got in there, I took it apart, I was like messing with all kind of stuff. Then I found something, and yeah, it ended up just being the screw for the crosstalk. So you could, because these things, like you can pick up things while you're on one track and it'll pick up something from another, and so you adjust it. And this was just way adjusted to the wrong side. But I did also clean it up, spray the volume knobs with some deoxit F5 fader lube, and that cleared up a lot of the sound, like a lot of the scratchiness and a lot of the and burying the needle on the right channel. So that was pretty cool. Moving on down to the last piece in this one. This is a Technics RS630 US. It's a cassette deck from 1977. It's pretty cool. It's got these little meters. Like I've just got the record button tab pushed in, and it's just picking up sound off the radio to make the meters bounce to look neater. Oh, and also this receiver has meters too. I've got it on the radio right now, it's just the volume off. So this is cool because, get down here for a second. This is how you open it. Whoa. And then the tapes go in diagonally. So pretty cool. And there's just some various tapes and CDs that I have. So yeah, that does it for this stereo. Oh, but what about those speakers on top? Well, that's the other stereo that we're going to get to in just a second. Told you it would only be a second. Have I ever lied to you? No. Well, not that I know of. Okay, starting up at the top here. Well, let's give a little show of the whole thing. Alright, well actually we'll cut over to these speakers that I showed that were sitting on top of my Advent Laureates. And these are some JBL Studio bookshelf speakers, S26-2s. I'm pretty sure these are like home theater speakers, but they sound really good in a 2-channel home stereo setup. They weigh about 20 pounds each. They're 8-ohm speakers, and I forget what the wattage is on them. But they are loud, they are vibrant, they are totally kick-ass. So, alright, back to this young lady right here. Starting off at the top is the Audio-Technica LP3 fully automatic turntable with an AT91R stylus. It sounds really good. They sell for around $200. You can usually get them on sale for $150, sometimes around $100. So that's about what I did. And yeah, it is fully automatic. It comes with a counterbalance and anti-skate. So you can adjust your records and make them sound neato. You got turtles, because turtles. You can do 33 and 45 RPMs. Oh, and on the other one, on my dual 1019, you can also do 16 and 78 RPMs. What? Alright, yeah, you can adjust the speed to 33 and 45 RPMs, depending on if you're playing LPs, full-length albums, or EPs, singles. So, moving on down. Got an 8-track player. This is pretty much an entire Radio Shack realistic system on these next few shelves. A lot of people sleep on the realistic brand stuff, but some of it is really, really kick-ass. I've got a well, I'll get down to that in a second. Alright, so up here we've got the 8-track player, the Q800 4 and 2 channel tape deck. You can connect 2 sets of speakers to it, or 4 sets to have it be in quadraphonic, which is kind of like a simulated surround sound type of thing. This has no fancy buttons in it at all, except for pretty much just switching from one track to another, which is that button on the bottom left, and then on the bottom right, an auto stop, which I guess would stop it once it's done. I've never done that. I usually just let it keep playing until I get tired of it. These are the 2 blank 8 tracks, which were also realistic, that came with that Mayfair one that I showed you a little bit ago. This thing sounds pretty cool. Like, it's really good. This was, like, I looked it up. It was $100 when it first came out. Got it at a thrift store, like a kind of, not a regular thrift store, but kind of like a vintagey resale shop that had a bunch of stuff from the 80s and 90s and 70s and stuff in it. And it was only like $10. It needed a new belt, so I got a new belt and put it in. And yeah, it sounds really, really good. The speed is a little low, like a little slow, I mean. But you really can't tell unless you, like, compare it to another one. This is a equalizer. It's a realistic also. I think it's 31-1987 is the model number. I'm not 100% sure. I don't have all the model numbers memorized. This thing sounds pretty good, but it was also another one that kind of needs some work. And it sounds like really, really good on the left side, but the right side, it kind of cuts the noise out of the speaker, so that kind of sucks. So I haven't really had it hooked up for a while because I was worried I might be messing up my receiver. I might get into trying to fix it, or I might just keep it as a display item, or I might sell it because it does have the original booklet. Moving on down to another realistic Radio Shack product. This is the SCT-11 cassette deck, which I'm pretty sure is either modeled after or made by Hitachi, because it looks a lot like a Hitachi D/410. It also has a diagonal loading cassette bay, which is pretty cool. And look, neato bouncy meters, because I've also got it plugged into the stereo just for neato bouncy meters to be bouncing around during this video. So it kind of gives you something besides just staring at a tape deck for minutes at a time while you listen to me ramble on about nothing, drone and drone and droning. The sound, this one, yeah, this was a free one, needed a lot of work done to it. Cleaned it up inside and outside, changed the belts on it, got it to where it's pretty much working. The sound is kind of a little off sometimes, but for the most part, it's good. Like, it's pretty functioning. I don't know if I'd record on it, but I've sat there and listened to it play. It doesn't play as well as the Techniques one that I showed you earlier, but yeah, it gets the job done. This one doesn't feel like, this kind of feels like a lighter quality device. It's definitely a lot lighter than that other tape deck that I showed you a minute ago. Moving down, though, to the core of this system, the realistic STA90 receiver. This thing is kick-ass. It is also 45 watts per channel, just like the Pioneer one. There it is. And yeah, this was in pretty rough shape when I got it. Got it for pennies on the dollar. But I took it apart, cleaned it up inside and out, took all the knobs and switches off, cleaned it, deoxed it, all that stuff. Got in there with like a vacuum and a soft, big paintbrush to kind of dust everything off and suck the dust off. Even hit it with like a, what do you call, some canned air, which I don't like to use since it gets really cold, but just short little bursts to kind of loosen stuff up. It was in pretty rough shape, but now it sounds amazing. One of my favorite things is that whenever the dial pointer picks up the station, it turns red. Yeah, so that's neat. You can do aux, which would like plug in a CD player or a phone or an MP3 player. It's got 2 tape inputs, so I've got that cassette deck and that 8-track player plugged into it. But I also have an iPod Classic. Remember those boys and girls? Yeah, so that's got like, I don't know, a couple thousand songs on it, and I can play it through here. Some stuff, since it's MP3, kind of sounds like doggy poop, but some stuff sounds really, really good. Yeah, so this thing sounds amazing. I'm going to do more detailed videos on all these, but yeah, I really love this receiver a whole lot. I managed to pick it up right before going on a 2-week vacation, and the whole time I was on vacation, I was just like looking at pictures of this on my phone, being like, I can't wait to get back to it. And this is another little cabinet that some guy moving out of state was getting rid of, so I picked it up. It fits everything in there. You could put records down there, but I don't really like having records down there because I'd rather have records be facing forward. So I just put a actual backup stereo down there. But before that, there's a little drawer in here that's kind of neat, because you can put like tapes in it, but I put things like speaker wire and more speaker wire and tape deck belts and speaker wire cutters and RCA cables and stuff like that. Okay, moving down to the backup system. It's another Radio Shack receiver. This is an Optimus STAV-3280. It's an audio-visual or audio-video receiver from, I believe, the mid-90s. But the neat thing about it is, even though it's an Optimus, it's actually a rebadged Pioneer receiver. It is super heavy. I mean, not super heavy, but it's heavy. It doesn't feel like just a black plastic piece of stereo equipment from the 90s. It's got like a really big transformer in it. It's got 100 watts per channel. It sounds really, really good. This was my first receiver that I got when I started getting back into stereo stuff last year. Underneath that, the Onkyo. I forget the model number of this. It is a single cassette, and it's not all black plastic. The faceplate of it is actually metal, so that's a good quality to have. Yeah, sounds good. It's got Dolby noise reduction, B and C, so that probably means something. Okay, that is it for the main 2 stereos, but I've got some bonus stuff. And I've actually got another couple of pieces that I'm working on, so I'll get to those in another video. But bonus stuff, what could you mean? Well, here, let me show you. Right above my stereo is where we're getting portable. Look at that. We got a Sanyo boombox from 1985. I forget the model number of that, but it's got detachable speakers. It is super, super, super loud. Like, the volume is all the way on low, because if I raise it up anymore, it's going to just blast out. I don't know why it's so loud, but it is. Sorry for some barking dogs there for a second. Yeah, this was also, someone was just getting rid of it because it was like super dirty and scratchy. So I took the whole thing apart, cleaned it inside and out, sprayed it with deoxit, mostly just the F5 fader lube on the volume sliders, which are located right here. But it's still kind of scratchy. It's really hard to get into where it's supposed to go. So it's still kind of scratchy, but yeah, it sounds really, really good. Unfortunately, the battery in the battery compartments, the battery coils are rusted out and one of them's even broken off. So this is a plug-in only stereo, as opposed to this little guy down there, which is a little Sony cassette player, CD player boombox that I picked up at a thrift store in Florida earlier this summer. Sounds pretty good. It's a nice little portable thing for when you want to be analog on the go. All right, then there's this guy right here, the Ima Craig PS 2000, I believe. I'll do a video on this. It's a clock radio that got for free. It was in pretty piss poor shape, but I managed to clean it up, fix it up, and get most of it working. And then finally, for right now, portable wise, look at that, dude. Optimus Walkman. I end up with a lot of Radio Shack stuff. Don't even know how. Probably not going to be keeping this one because it plays, the speed is a bit fast on it, and I cannot figure out how to slow it down. I've taken it apart. I could not find, most tape decks have a motor with a little adjustable screw. This one did, which was what I worked on. This one did also, which is what I worked on. This one does, but I didn't need to work on that. And this one does, which I did need to work on. So yeah, that is it for these guys. Maybe we can get a shot of all of them together. Maybe. Yeah. Nope, but that's good enough. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a blessed day. And I guess I'll say goodbye to you face to face. Okay. Wasn't that exciting? Well, thanks for joining me and listening to me talk about some stuff that I have. That's kind of weird now that I think about it. Hey, look at these things that I have. But yeah, I know I like looking at other people's stereo stuff, so hopefully you did too. And if you didn't, then you're probably not watching anymore. So cool. Don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe button if you want to see more thrilling and gripping entertainment like this. Or don't. But yeah, cool. This was fun and interesting, and maybe not interesting, but definitely fun. Haven't done this in a long time. I missed you guys. Did you miss me? If you did, say so in the comments. And if you didn't, say so in the comments. And if you did, don't say so in the comments. I don't care. I mean, I'll just keep making these until I stop. So if the algorithm picks up that people are interested in engaging, or don't, I'm still going to be doing this stuff, because that's the kind of person I am. Alright, I have completely run out of things to say, and I should have stopped this probably about 10 minutes ago. Or 2 minutes ago. Or 30 minutes ago. Okay, thanks for joining. See you next time, and have a blessed day.